Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Down by the Bayou. I am your host, Otis Jess Boudreau, or Jess Otis Boudreau, I guess. I get them all mixed around. And I am joined today by the general manager of the Louisiana Revolution, Ross Napoli. Go ahead and say hello to everybody, Ross, and I'm going to put my false teeth back in.
Well, hello everybody, and thanks for having me on today, Jess. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the first two episodes with Gerald and Coach, and you and I have been talking back and forth. I was eager to come on and ready to talk and have a good time. I mean, those two look like they enjoyed it, and I needed to wait my turn.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you with me today. I mean, I'm a teacher. I love to talk, and when I have somebody that I can engage in a intellectual and in an intelligent and enjoyable conversation, I jump at the opportunity for that. And I've got them lined up. This is great. I love the fact that people are saying, "Hey, I want to come on. I want to do this," and to get leadership's going to come from the top. Mm-hmm. And so you and Gerald jumping in right at the beginning and wanting to get involved in this, that means a lot to me because, it's we all kind of try to find our place in the league and do what we are comfortable with doing. So I appreciate the support that you're giving me. Yeah, and looking back at my career, I got drafted season 15, and I made the decision at the end of this season to declare my free agency. And we were talking before we started recording this that you and I had a friendship before that. Yeah. I even contemplated that decision. And talking to Gerald, he kind of set this up for us. But I want you to just quickly talk about your perception of what last season was like for you guys in Louisiana.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, not the season that we were looking for on the field, but I wouldn't say it was a down season within the franchise. I don't know if you hear that. It sounds like 4th of July started early around here. So if you hear that stuff in the background, it's going on already. But as far as locker room wise and within the organization, for the most part, because there was a handful of people, obviously, that, are not here anymore, who probably thought otherwise. But for the most part, the team was really together. It was like, oh man, that sucks. Next game, let's get it going. And when we were losing close games, those guys were really looking at it from a game perspective, like, you know what, we're right there, for a team coming off of a 9-3 season and one game shy of a championship the year before, we were losing games 9-7. We lost the game, I think, like 19-15. And it was like, wow, if we didn't turn the ball over here, or if we got this stop on third down, maybe the game is different. So spirits are really high, and you're in the locker room now. You see how that locker room is going. And, it's, as I told you and some other guys coming into the league, wait till you get into the locker room and wait till you're with these guys. And I'm sure every team out there thinks that they have a great locker room. And I'm sure that in certain ways, maybe certain teams more than others, they probably do have great locker rooms. But our locker room is literally like a family, where the ribbing and the joking is it's right on point and everybody jumps in. Or if someone's having a down day or saying somebody puts in there, everybody's, hey, how are you okay, is everything all right? Yeah. And it's the way it's been since Gerald bought this team and started this team with Jeff in season 15. So it's always been a good selling point, to let guys know how that locker room is, as well as it kind of carried the team through what was ultimately a down season. I mean, we didn't win our first game until week 4, and we ended up finishing 4-8. It was nothing to be proud of on the field, but this team really stuck together as a unit and as a family. And, as we were starting to go through the season,
Right.
once we started getting around like week 8 or 9, I started reaching out to guys and saying, hey, I know we still got, about a month left of the season, but just want to know what you're thinking, where your mind is. And I would say every guy that re-signed to this team knew at that point, oh yeah, no, I'm coming back. This isn't, this isn't revolution football. This is not how we're going to be. So everybody who re-signed on this team, when I started reaching out at that point, never wavered, was never like, well, let me see how, how's it going or whatever. It was, I said, hey, we want you back if you want to come back. And everybody, just their first response to me was, yeah, no, hell yeah, I'm coming back. I'm not going anywhere. And listen, we had a couple of guys that wanted to move on, and that's cool. One of the things that I respect about a guy like Gerald is that he's always said, even when we're recruiting guys, and him and I joke about this, he's always out telling people like, listen, if you feel that there's another opportunity out there that's better for you, or you have friends on another team and you want to go, like, hey, that's great, because your happiness is more important to us than the actual game. Like, we don't want to bring somebody here that wishes they signed someplace else, right, or wishes they could be playing with another team, So I'm always joking with him, like, will you stop telling people in the recruiting process that if they want to go someplace else, they can, and we joke, but it's true. That's the type of guy that he is. And so that's what resonates with these players. So when I would reach out with guys that, Gerald and Jeff had signed before I got here, guys like Chase Earl and Chuck Diesel, that they signed before I got here. These were guys that I'm reaching out as general manager saying, hey, you guys want to come back or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, no, man, I'm here. I'm with Gerald. Not a problem at all. I'm coming back. Never thought about any place else. Don't want to, so it really resonates a lot about him as a person, him as an owner. And him and Jeff as the guys who started this together, and how that family-like atmosphere, which now you're a part of and can experience with us, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. That really was what we took from last season, because what else can you take from a 4-8 season, and not even really battling for a chance at that division last year, which we found, on the field was disappointing,
Well, and I think I've been watching sports since I was knee high to a bullfrog, and one thing that my dad was a huge basketball star when he was in high school, so I kind of grew up with that. My sister, my brother, I was the one that would trip over the blades of grass. But everybody else in the family was real competitive and very successful in that. And I just remember my dad saying anybody can win, but it takes a true champion to lose. And I think that also is indicative of what we see here, because what makes it worse is we have no control over what's going on that field.
Right.
And so to sit and watch a play that you want to throw your hands up and say, why the hell to do that? Knowing that if it had done something else, what someone that was actually involved in that, a real person, would have reacted differently. Mm-hmm. It could have changed the outcome of the game, and to turn around after that and say, I'm coming back to do this again. And I think that what you said about the people wanting to come back, that shows the and I've seen it, like you said, after getting in the locker room, that cohesiveness there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very evident, the closeness that's felt there, and the comfort level that people have there. So the season's over. You have some guys that decide to move on, opens up some spots for you. You're looking at free agency. How did that, I mean, as the general manager, how did that all kind of, because you signed, what, 5 of us in free agency?
Yeah. We signed 5, And then we drafted the 2. So, 7 new players out of 20 came to the team, which was not something that we were expecting,
Right.
Especially coming off of a season in which we didn't even participate in the draft. Season 16, we re-signed everybody except one. We had a second offensive lineman from year 1 who left the league after the season. So we had the 1 spot open, and we decided to use it in free agency when we brought Anthony Weil over. And that was it. And then our off season was over, and we had our 20 going into, last season. And clearly that 20 was not the right combination, and that's kind of how I viewed it as we were winding down to the season. And, there's always the 2 facets, right? Like we were talking before, and like many people do, you have the in-game, and then you have the people in real life that make the locker room what it is. I try to find where's the balance of those 2 things.
Right.
Where can we get quality on the field and quality in real life? Gerald also has another philosophy, which I've learned, I guess, through being with him now for 2 seasons, is that obviously the player coming into the locker room is more important than what happens on field, because we don't want to hurt the team, but we'll get the quality there. We're totally confident in the ability of the guys in the front office to build these players the right way. So it may take a season or 2 to build somebody in the game who's of lower value, but to make them work well with the scheme of what we're looking to do and get them the real life person in the game. And he's showed the evidence of that is every season that Gerald's basically been here. And it's one of the things that I loved coming here was somebody who has as much knowledge about the game and has been around the league as many seasons as Gerald has, because you can take a look at just what he did in St. Louis the year that they took Johnny Pickler, right? Mm-hmm. Johnny Pickler was a rookie base player, and he was the lowest valued quarterback in the league. And Gerald brings that team to 500. They make the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. And Johnny Pickler was an all-star, and he was rookie of the year.
Yep.
Because when your coaches know how to use those types of players, you're going to get the results on the field, as well as bringing the guy over for the real life personality. And we were able to do that with a couple of guys. I mean, they did that with me. Gerald wanted me as the person, not my undervalued base copper defensive end. But they took me at 5 in that draft. Same draft as you. We all got drafted in the same season, 15. And it enabled them to get me on the team because they wanted me as the person. And hey, we were a total rookie defensive line in season 15, and we went 9-3 and went to the playoffs because the coaching staff knew how to build and use those lower valued guys in the game and get the best out of them. And that's to me, that's the biggest value and asset we have.
Well, and that leads me, you've talked a lot about your relationship with Gerald and as a general manager, well, let me back up. As friends, it's obvious you guys are very close. As a general manager and an owner relationship, what's that like?
So far, I guess we're still in the honeymoon phase, right? I mean, we don't really disagree on a lot. And I do think it has to do with the respect that we have for each other. I had to earn that respect because I was new to the organization and new to the league, where I had the respect for Gerald because I heard about him when I was in the minors and people talked about Gerald Smith and talked about, what he was able to start to show progress with his days in London as a coach there. And then when those days ended, going to St. Louis and taking a team, that had never had a winning season or the playoffs, and bringing them to that, with a rookie quarterback, and then was voted in by the owners, to purchase the old New Orleans team and become an owner. Those are all things that, in my eyes, deserve the respect that you hear other people in this league give him. So, the respect for me was there. And, I did my best to kind of convince him that I was the right guy to bring here to help shape this roster. I wanted to be in the front office. I like talking to people. I like the recruiting process. I liked the building of a franchise and a roster. And when I knew that it was going to be that mixture of the real person with their value in the game, that's right in my wheelhouse, right? So now I'm going to be able to sit there and I'm going to be able to, look at the numbers and analyze some statistics and analyze builds and do things. And I did that immediately for this team. Weeks before the draft was coming, Gerald had, informed me that they had decided that I was going to be the 5th pick in the draft, and that, hey, as long as I was there, they were going to take me. And I told Gerald, well, then I'm coming to Louisiana. I mean, no one in the top 4 picks. I mean, I didn't even think Louisiana was going to take me at 5. So once he said, no, you're the guy, and if no one's been talking to you, hey, we can kind of get to work. I told him, you let me know. Started sharing some information, and I was analyzing the builds and what I saw in players, and then my experience with guys in the minors, as to why they may fit on the roster. So him and I spent a lot of time going over things like that. And I mean, I was taken in the first round and then was immediately invited into the front office chats with him and Jeff, and literally had inputs on our draft picks from the second round through 7. I mean, I was picked in round 1, and now I'm helping with rounds 2 through 7. So it was a whirlwind. It was fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted. And then I think the way that I broke down some of those things, the reasons why I wanted certain guys for us, why I didn't want certain guys. And those things sort of played out. And I think that played out in my favor, because I think Gerald, and Jeff kind of saw what I was saying, and then watching it kind of happen in certain situations. And that's when Gerald said, like, yeah, this is, you understand what I'm looking for, what I want. And then to have the success that, I'm not taking any credit for a 9-3 season. My Twins crew coached us through a tumultuous season where Gerald had to step back, with other things going on in the league. And so Mike gets all the credit in the world for that. Another rookie coming in the same draft with me, he was our 2nd round draft pick, and was coaching and brought us, to where we were. So this group really works well together. And, Gerald and I have really been on the same page. Look, we've disagreed about things. Right. Nothing's ever been an argument, I voiced reasons why I don't think we should go a certain route. He's very fair. He takes things into consideration. I don't always get my way, but the respect factor between us,
right?
I can take that. If he just says, no, I think this is what we should do, hey, he's the boss. That's right. I'm perfectly fine with that. And so, we work well together. We've had certain, situations, with the team, certain things come up, and, look, we all know the personalities that have come and gone on the team. And, him and I have disagreed on routes on how to handle that situation. But again, I've always said to Gerald from the very beginning, listen, I'm a type of guy that I have to tell you my opinion. Yeah. Right. There's going to be plenty of times that you're going to be like, just shut the hell up. Don't stop talking. But I just told Gerald, I can't sit back and not say anything. So I'm going to tell you how I feel. And then you're going to tell me, okay, I hear you, but we're going to do this. Or, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I didn't, look at things a certain way. And we'll go from there. So it's the kind of relationship that him and I have. We speak quite often. We've become very good friends. And I believe we just both have the same vision for the future of the Louisiana Revolution. And so, that working relationship definitely has grown stronger. But we do from time to time that we don't agree on a certain direction, but he's fair. When he said to me, hey, recruitment's your thing, the roster, personnel, those types of things are your thing. I don't go and make a move without him. But, right. If I lay something out and I say, we've laughed a couple of times, because I'll call Gerald and I'll be like, all right, now listen, just hear me out. This is going to sound crazy. And he's like, oh, all right. What do you, and I've come up with some, crazy scenarios where, he's been like, all right, I don't think we're going to do that, but, let's, and we laugh, and, so we have a good, working relationship. And I do think that the roster and seeing guys like yourself and Tyler Falk and Coach and Cam and Doug, and now bringing in Chance and Tommy this year and re-signing the core of this team is really proof that we're doing something right? Yeah. We're bringing quality people to this team. We certainly want the results to show on the field, but for the personalities and the real life people that we've brought to this organization, there's nothing negative that can be said about this franchise according to that, because you are all quality people and we are so happy that you're all here. So,
well, and that was going to kind of be what my next question was. Now that the free agency, the draft is over, the team's together, we got a full roster. And looking back, don't break my heart too much, but if you had a chance to do it all over again, that from the end of the season until where we're at right now, would you do it differently? And how did you feel when things, because when I talked to Gerald, it was kind of like he would almost like wake up one day and in the morning and wow, I wasn't expecting this, but this opportunity has come up.
Right.
Yeah. How did that kind of process go through in your mind? And would you have done anything differently over that free agency draft period?
Well, I think I may have, because like I was saying to you, and it has nothing to do with the people. I'm just, again, I think it attributes to the working relationship that him and I have, because we're very similar in a lot of ways. So one of us always has to be the person to basically say, like, all right, like, we really have to take a step back and do it. And fortunately for us, with the way things have turned out, is he's the boss. He gets to make those decisions, right? I mean, I don't have the authority to override anything. Gerald jokes, and I'm sure, you've heard him say this before and stuff. Gerald's just like, I'm just impatient. I want things to happen now. I want things to happen. Well, so do I, right? So there's a lot of times I'm calling him and I'm saying, man, we should do this, we should do that. And he's actually been the one to be like, all right, I see what you're saying, but let's just wait this out. Let's just see how this goes. Let this situation play itself out. And where I've been the anxious one to get things going. So to answer your question, I probably would have done things differently, because I was getting a lot of positive feedback from the players that we were re-signing, right? The only guys that we got a little bit of kind of wait and see, I don't know what I want to do type thing, were ultimately the guys that didn't return to the team. And look, more power to them. Like we said, Matt Fennick, when I reached out, was really non-committal. Hey, let's see how the season goes. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I was getting the feeling, look, he's ready to move on. Gerald agreed, but said, but Gerald's like, but listen, he's our guy. And, let's give him a little time to basically make a decision. So I was more impatient of like, well, look, clearly if somebody's not ready to commit, right? They're testing the waters, which is cool,
Mm-hmm.
But to me, if you're testing the waters, you're either looking for an opportunity that you prefer, or you're looking for an opportunity that when it comes along, you think it's better than this one.
Right.
So to me, I have all the respect in the world for that, because we want everybody to have a great experience in this league, right? But for me, I want that answer now. So if you already know, like, let me wait and see, I was
Right.
kind of like, well, maybe we should be moving on. It was kind of the same thing with Anthony Weil, who basically said, like, hey, haven't thought about the off season, and, not really sure. And then I waited till the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, when I reached out, he was like, you know what, I am going to test free agency. And so anytime I reached out with these guys and I was getting those hesitant answers, I was the guy to Gerald to say, I think we should move on. Then, let these guys test the market, do whatever. So in hindsight, Gerald was right, because waiting it out allowed us to land guys such as yourself, allowed those holes to open up where we could bring the package of the big three here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if we went with more my impatient approach of like, hey, let me go start talking to people or whatever, I may have been able to sign or get other guys to commit. That would have been quality players, because, we were reaching out to specific people. But we probably would have missed out on the group we have now. So again, that working relationship worked in our favor, I think, because I wouldn't want anybody other than the guys that we landed here, because once you guys became available to us, see, back then you weren't, as far as we knew, you were going back to Vegas. It was like, all right, we'll see if he tests free agency for season 18. We didn't know what Tyler was going to do, being the first pick overall in the draft. We were kind of hoping that, hey, with a really down season, maybe he's just looking for a fresh start or whatever. Like, we didn't know all of that other stuff that was going on at that time. But we knew the holes that were going to start opening for us. So I definitely would have done that differently if that stuff was totally up to me. And that's why I always appreciate the working relationship that he and I have, because he certainly has no problem with telling me no, that's not what we're going to do. And he knows I'm going to accept that and not argue with him. I plead my case. Don't get me wrong. I'll sit there and be like, but this is what I really think. As I know that's what you think, but
well, and I think that, I've worked for a hell of a lot of people over my lifetime, and to have someone that has the final say, to say, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to validate you and your opinion, because I value those, even though basically I've already made up my mind and I know what you're going to say, and I'm not going to change my mind. I'm going to still give you the opportunity to say what you want to say, and I'm going to listen, and to have the humility to say, I'm not right all the time. I mean, that one of the things that I had to learn over the years in the military and stuff is the art of communication. And it sounds like you guys have kind of written a textbook on it, because if a person is not allowed to say what they're thinking, then they don't feel valued. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear that Gerald values you and your opinions, even when you disagree, very highly. And between the two of you, because of that, it lends itself to the high probability of a classic successful relationship. And I think it's very indicative of you as an individual, of Gerald as an individual, and the organization as all. It was funny when I decided to become a free agent, and I got bombarded with all the DMs and stuff. And it was really kind of funny, because that happened it was announced in the morning, early in the morning, and I got up and turned on my phone and my computer, got my coffee, and it was like I had half a dozen DMs there, not from you or Gerald, which I was like, damn, these guys are my friends, and I'm a free agent, and I'm not, and I didn't hear from you guys for like 2 days, and I remember when I got the DM, I think you DM'd me first, and then Gerald like a couple hours later, and it was like, hey, would love to have you down in Louisiana. I know there's a lot of options out there for you. If it's something you want to consider, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And that was the approach. And it was like, there was no hard sell. There was no, what are you going to do for, it was never, it was kind of like, hey, just like you were saying, we want you because we think you're a okay dude. It's not, oh, you're a kicker that can kick a country mile, or you know how to make videos. It's, we want you as the individual come in that locker room. And when I started to really narrow it down, and my wife was, I would be talking to her about it, and I'm like, well, I got this list of teams that reached out to me, and I need to start narrowing it down. And like Coach and I were saying, the hardest thing was the ones that had reached out to me that were my friends as well, and I had to tell them no. Right. And then I started looking at your locker room, and I was like, well, I know Frank. Mike and I were on Madison together. We scouted together there. I mean, he lives within 5 hours of me. We spent a lot of time talking. Leonard Butler, senior, awesome dude. I mean, he's a, and then all these pieces, and it was like that communication, because what you guys do to each other without realizing it, you do that to us. Because
I appreciate you saying that, because we're glad that it comes off that way, because there's multiple facets into it, right? You get the excitement of really seeing how many teams want you, and to your point, different teams may want you for different reasons. I do believe that most teams value the person in real life, but it's how do they value that, right? Certain teams may value you because of the things that you were doing in Vegas, right? You were doing the videos, you were doing social media things. So somebody may say, hey, Jess is a great guy, and he could do all of these things for the team, right? We're always ones that feel, no, we want Jess here. And hey, if Jess wants to do any of these things, that's fantastic. And like I always said to you from any of the time, there was never going to be any pressure to say, now that we got you over here and you were doing this, we want you to do this for us. We want you to do that for us. It was like, no, we wanted you here. And hey, we have plenty of people here that can do those things too. Frank is an excellent guy, doing with the graphics, and Frank can do video, and Frank can do all of that stuff. There's plenty of people who can contribute to the teams in that way, but we also don't want to overload anybody. We want their experience to be good, and we want them to come here and not feel that there is an expectation on them to fulfill some sort of a job requirement to be on this team, and those are the things. And the other element of it was the fact of, for me as a front office member, and same thing for Gerald as an owner, look, we have friends in this league as well, and we're not like that to go and basically try to steal somebody away, right? So there's no secret that Gerald has a relationship with Slyn from the London days. And Slyn and I have become very good friends just from being in the minors. And I spoke to Slyn a lot, and him and I have become friends after that. And I couldn't find it in myself to be trying to snake you away from Vegas behind his back when he took you as his first draft pick as a GM there.
Yeah,
that was you. Right. He values you as a person. I know you and Slyn are friends. So for me to go in there and be like, hey, man, you don't want to be over there. You don't want to play with them or whatever. Come over here. That's not who I am.
Well, and that was when I when I was trying to decide what I was going to do, I talked to quite a few different people whose opinion that I valued. And I remember having a conversation with you, and I didn't come out and say I'm considering leaving Vegas, but we just talked about the league in general.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that after that conversation that evening, I was talking to my wife, and I said, not one time did he talk to me about leaving Vegas and joining Louisiana. It was never a part of the conversation.
Right.
And so it was that whole that validation of us as people is something I'm impressed with, and something that kind of when I was weighing everything out and making my decision. And I hope that I have just as much, if not more, success than I had at Vegas. I had a great career for the 2 seasons I was there. I'm looking forward to kicking as long and as far and as hard as I have to, hopefully only for extra points in the upcoming season. But what, you've kind of put this together now. You said season 15 draft. After you were drafted, you continued with that. You held the team intact. You were kind of the mastermind, for lack of a better way of putting it, with free agency and the draft this season. We've got everything ready. We had a scrimmage last night. What are you looking at for season 17? What is your expectation?
Well, my expectation is to win the division and be definitely contending for a title this year. I just feel last season was a step back. I totally appreciate the whole mastermind behind the plan here. I mean that's great. That's fantastic. But that's a double-edged sword, because the bottom line is as much as I've been allowed to build this roster, if it don't pan out, it's my fault. I mean,
that's where you get to blame the boss.
Well, right, exactly. Because I mean, he should, if this doesn't pan out on the field, he definitely shouldn't have listened to me. But I mean, again, you gotta balance both, right? There's no doubt that you guys all are a great bunch of guys, and we just I can't say it enough, right? We all keep doing. I know you talked about it with Gerald. You talked about it with Coach. Here, you and I are talking about it. We're mentioning it again. The locker room is just phenomenal. The group of guys is great. That was never going to be in question. In question is are we building a championship team on the field? On paper, we feel that we are. And I feel that our 2 draft picks this year, which I'm very proud of both of those picks, because they were both our number 1 targets. We landed them both. Both are quality individuals, and both are highly ranked in the game, and that brought value where we needed it. So those 2 pieces, I think, are going to be key to our success this year. We're bringing in a quarterback in Tommy who is a hair under gold without an animation. You strip some of these quarterbacks in the pros animations away, and Tommy's a higher value than a lot of them, including the one that just moved on from us. Okay. I mean, but listen, that's just a fact. That's not a knock on anybody. We're able to bring somebody in right now that is basically a maxed silver without an animation. And you saw it last night in the scrimmage. I mean, Tommy's got an 80 speed. He rolled out in the pocket last night.
That was unreal.
I mean, it was phenomenal, right? Because some of these other quarterbacks in the league, that once they got to a certain point and then they're saving for their animations and they're going, that's an attribute that they lack, right? Tommy is threading the needle last night in that game. I mean, you got 2 or 3 defenders coming across, and I'm like, oh, that's an incompletion. And I'm like, oh, we just completed the pass. And that's without an animation. That is going to bring dimensions to our offense that we have not had in previous seasons. And that's just because a build is different. we had, as we were talking about before, our defensive line were all rookies in season 15. Last year, they were all second-year players. Now, we've been able to maneuver certain things around and move guys into certain position, right? We did not bring my player back this year to play on the team because I told Gerald that, listen, it's not that we can't duplicate the value that my player is there, but I'm happy with what I'm doing on the team, and I'd rather give that spot to a rookie. Why am I going to eat a spot when, I'm enjoying my time here with the team. I don't have to have a player, So, and we wanted to reward somebody like Leonard Butler, who was a tight end in the minors and who was a fantastic guy. And anybody who ever came across Leonard knows just how great of a guy he is. He was going to be an addition to any locker room in this league. I wanted to make sure we put him in this one. And so him and I hit it off very well during that process. When I called him about, hey, we want to draft you in the supplemental rounds, we were fortunate that no one was targeting him as a tight end and that he was going to be there in those rounds. He's a guy who's from Louisiana. When he found out that the hometown team was looking for him, this is where he wanted to be. I set up a conversation with him and Gerald. Gerald fell in love with him just like I did, and it was a no-brainer that Leonard was coming here. Then season 16, it was like, this is your last chance to convert back to your original position, or you're going to be stuck at this position for the rest of your career, because that's what the rules were at that time.
Right.
And Leonard said, but I want to be here. So if that means I'm going to be an offensive lineman, I'll be an offensive lineman. I don't want to go and play for somebody else's tight end. I want to be here on this team. And when we saw that sort of dedication, the first thing that I said to Gerald this year when we were going to have the hold is, what do you think about converting Leonard over to the defensive line? And without question, he was like, I never thought of it. Yes, because let's give a loyal guy to this organization a better experience for his player. Not that he never enjoyed watching his player on the field and blocking for Reggie, and he loved stuff like that. But now to be able to watch your guy on the defensive side of the ball, get at it and make tackle, you knew it was going to make his experience better. And that's what we wanted. Luther Gahn, same thing. He was a running back in the minors when we were there, and I saw the value of what his attributes were going to be as a defensive tackle and reached out to him and said, hey, we really want to bring you here. He said yes. And he set the franchise sack record in his rookie season. He had 16 and a half sacks as a rookie that year. Dominant defensive lineman there. We brought Derek Jenko on because our third round pick left the server in the middle of season 15. So we had these things, but when we saw the value that Chance Wall was, I told Gerald, I said, listen, we can't flip flop. Too many teams need quarterbacks. Tommy's got to go number 5, which means we may very well lose out on Chance Wall. He's the number 1 rated defensive tackle in the minors. And 2 nights before just before free agency locked, I analyzed all of the rosters, and I was on the phone with Gerald, and I said, there's no way we get Chance Wall. And he said, why is that? And I said, because 16 teams need a defensive tackle and 5 of them need 2.
Wow.
So we started developing. He said, all right, well, do you have, another plan? And I said, well, yeah, I've been talking to some guys, and I spent all of Friday night and round 1 keeping in contact with everybody else. I had contact with Chance, but, I even told Chance throughout that time that, I'm hoping that you're there, but, it's going to be tough. And, to see some of our other secondary targets for him, guys that could convert to a defensive tackle, get drafted, and he was still there. It was unbelievable. And when those last 3 or 4 picks of round 1 went around, and I was on the phone and on Discord with other GMs, I was talking with guys making the picks. Hey, where are you going here? What are you looking at? Because you're picking in front of me. You don't have to. And when we got down to those last couple of things, I knew from conversations over in Queen City that they were not going to go defensive tackle with that first pick in the second round. So the pick that I sweated the most was the last pick in round 1, Sioux Falls. I did
Yeah.
not know what they were going to do, and they needed a defensive tackle. And when they did not pick a defensive tackle, man, I screamed at the TV, and I knew Chance Wall was coming to Louisiana.
Well, and you and I were actually talking during that whole mix as well, because
Yep.
after we drafted Tommy, I was like, okay, what are we looking at next? And because we're going to have to get back together and have a conversation about that draft, because that within itself was mind-boggling. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
And I said it with Gerald, and I probably even said it with Coach. To see 3 kickers go in the first 10 picks made my heart feel good.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, there's all these questions that's popping into my head, so we're going to have to definitely do a part 2 with this. But it's. I think that the thing that people don't realize is all the pieces that an effective GM has to put together to make an organization gel.
Yeah.
You've got the player on the field, you've got the contracts, you've got the roster requirements or restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
You've got an owner, you've got, with you and the Louisiana front office, it's a pretty good size front office. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got all of these different moving pieces in this.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you in the time that I've been a part of the organization to see it moving as one. And that's what, it was a tough decision for me to decide where I was going to go. But when I signed on as the DOC and I went in the locker room, I told my wife one night, I said, it's like watching an amoeba. It's constantly changing shape. It's
Yep.
constantly moving. The way that the front office was restructured to accommodate quality people coming in. I mean, it's constantly moving around, and in the process of that happening, people don't realize the progress it's making. I mean, it's to me, it's a really fascinating thing. And to know that you and Gerald are kind of the guys behind the scenes that are guiding it, so to speak.
Right.
And I think, just like everybody else, and I've been real fortunate in my career in the SFL. I've worked under 2 phenomenal GMs. Shady is doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
In Vegas. Yeah, I was his first draft pick there, and it was, he and I had that conversation. He's like, man, you're my first one. And and it was not an easy decision to make because of what he has there and has done there. But I see the same thing here. So I'm really fortunate to go from a good, strong GM, knowledgeable GM, and aware of their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
I mean, and to come in and see that in everybody that I've encountered in the Louisiana organization, is everybody's aware of their strengths, but they're also humble enough to admit to their weaknesses. And I think that, I mean, there's a lot about the organization I liked. I could go on it, but I think that, like you said, looking at the roster, we should at least win the division, if not more. And I think we've got the front office staff to utilize the strengths and weaknesses of the roster that we have to make that happen.
Well,
and
we definitely have
that's
the coaching
going to be
staff for
huge.
that.
Yeah. And that's, I've watched professional football since the early 70s, and I've seen a lot of great players come out of college that fall apart in the NFL, partly for that reason. The coaches and the staff looks at the player and says, well, you did great in college doing this, so we want you to do something completely different.
Yeah, right.
And then they wonder why they struggle so much. And I think that's what's going to be, how well can you guys do that? And from what I've seen, I think it's going to happen. So, and I better cut this thing off, because if not, we're going to set a marathon record for this thing. But I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I appreciate the fact that we're friends. I mean,
same here, man. I was really glad that you chose us. It was a great thing to know that we can add, somebody who is going to feel just as passionate about the team as we do, and you still have so many guys to meet too, because like normal, the veterans and guys that have been on this team even prior to me being here, they're more active during the season.
Right.
As the season starts rolling around, you're going to get more of the personalities in there. Right now we've got about half the roster very active all year round. But the other half is going to be in there, as that season rolls closer. And then in that week, you're going to see some of those other people in there too. And, it's a great feeling to have all these guys in here and to know what the future is, for this team. We have got a handful of guys that are surefire Hall of Famers on this team. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We get to share not my player this season, but, guys like yourself and now Coach coming over, and Doug and Mike, Ryan, player, these guys are going to take the field, with Tank Bennett. They're going to share, Doug and Tyler's player are going to share the backfield with Evan Arthur, Rolliman Hood, and Tank Bennett. I mean, these are some of the best defensive backs that have ever played in the SFL. They all play in the same secondary, and now we're bringing in other guys like that. Reggie Streeter, surefire Hall of Famer. And I've said this to rookies in the process, and I've said this on some of the other shows that I've been on too. There are going to be guys that their players play in the SFL, and they never play on a team that has one of his teammates who go to the Hall of Fame eventually. Guys that are on this roster right now are playing with at least 5. Wow. That's an experience that I don't think anybody else in the SFL is going to have for a while.
Yep.
And so it's another attractive thing that brings guys to this team.
Well, I am excited. I'm ready. Let's get the season started tomorrow. But it's just I think that it's seeing it from the side that I can see it from now. You really see the poetry of what you guys have done, and I'm excited to be a part of it. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of give your final say, Ross, and then we're going to wrap this thing up.
Well, I thank you for having me on, and I would love to have an opportunity in the future again, or maybe if you have any of these where you have more than one person on at a time, definitely maybe to discuss a little bit more about the draft, like you were saying, or some of the other things that you may want to talk about. I'm always open to that, along with thanking you for me to be on the show, I also want to thank any of the guys that gave us the opportunity to come here, and our 2 rookies this year, Tommy and Chance, showing so much excitement prior to the draft. So I thank those guys for wanting to be a part of this, because, I can sell it as hard as I can to guys like yourself to say, hey, now that you're considering us, let me tell you all the wonderful things about Louisiana. Right. But you have to actually have that experience. Yeah. So to be excited to come here and to get that, I think it's something that even some of the guys that have left here are not going to say that their experience is bad here. I think Matt Phoenix and even Anthony Wayo and guys that have just moved on are not going to have anything bad to say about their time with the Revolution as far as their locker room experience or certainly on the field. So those are the positives that we get out of it. So I thank guys like Coach and Doug who really in certain instances could have kind of written their own ticket to go someplace.
Yeah.
To consider me and this organization as somebody that they would want to make the next chapter in their career and come and help the franchise. I thank them as well as anybody else in that locker room because, I came into this league saying, one day I want to own my own franchise and I would love to do this because this is what it is. And from day one, since I've been here, I've wanted nothing more than to just be with the Louisiana Revolution. And so I thank everybody in the locker room that makes my experience here good too. All you guys talk about, me and Gerald and Jeff and Robo and Mike and, guys in the front office who are trying to bring people here. Well, hey, the reason why we think it's so great is because we get to bring guys like you here. So you guys make our experience great. So, I thank every one of you guys for choosing the Louisiana Revolution. And I look forward to spending many, many seasons together.
Well, I will echo that or second that, or however we want to say it. It's a place that just makes you feel at ease. And I'm excited to see what the future is going to hold for us. And I would definitely, one of the things I was thinking about is getting you and Tommy and Chance on together to talk about how you kind of put that together. I'm always hesitant to do that because I don't want people giving out trade secrets about how they're able to do what they do. But I think the more that we expand upon the understanding of the experience, the more people that are coming into the league and saying, what am I getting myself into, kind of have that idea. I remember, and I don't want to get into this once again, but, coming in and during season 15, that first season of the minor leagues, it was kind of like, what the hell am I doing? And what am I doing? What am I getting myself into? I love it, but I have no clue what and so it was just so overwhelming. So I think by us sharing our experiences, I mean, you're drafted 5th, I'm drafted 10th, and look at how here we are 3 seasons in the same locker room. So thank you for your time. Like I said, folks, I appreciate those of you that hung with us. We're long-winded, but it's quantity and quality all at the same time. So thank you, everyone. I want you to stay safe out there, and I hope that you've enjoyed episode 3 of Down by the Bayou. Y'all take care.